Hi, everybody. Today we are taking a look at Sublime Knowledge's mind map. And I'm your host, Alia Yasmin Khan. And I want to take this opportunity to invite you to really study in detail. This is just an overview. Study this information in detail and see how you can learn a little bit more about yourself through this process. And by all means, if you have any questions about anything, always send us an email, get in touch with us, and we're happy to help. All right, let's get started. So today we are looking at the map of the mind. And when we're looking at mapping the mind, we're really looking at various areas of our minds that we don't pay attention to. The mind is a very complex and complicated um, issue, and this is really just an overview to encourage you to explore these areas. This is by no means anything that's going to fix anything, but it is just a map, a roadmap that will encourage you to study a little bit more about your mind and how it works. And when you learn more about yourself, you get to learn more about others almost instantly. So I hope you find this beneficial. Do leave your remarks in the comments below and give us a like and a subscribe if you find this beneficial. So first, we're going to really kind of just give you a little overview on consciousness. It's the observable universe that you experience through your senses. So we have our five senses: sight, smell, taste, touch, and hearing. And as we experience this world, we really kind of call this experience that we're experiencing consciousness. Next, we have our conscious mind, and then we have our unconscious mind. So our conscious mind means to be alert, be awake, be aware. It's our knowing mind. It's to be the active observer. Also, when you're consciously paying attention to something, you're really invested in what you're doing at that moment. And then we've got the unconscious mind, which is the act of not knowing. It could be sleeping. It's without human intention or will. It's involuntary. Sometimes it just comes from the subconscious mind and it's an involuntary reaction or response. And it's natural and it's intrinsic. So to you, it'll feel natural. It could be something that's taking place in your subconscious mind that you're just not aware of, and but is impacting your physical reality. So this is why we look at the unconscious mind. We're looking at the conscious mind and just kind of understanding a little bit deeper. The subconscious mind is sort of below your consciousness. This is your autonomous mind. I look at it as a subway train that's driving between two stations, the conscious mind and the unconscious mind. And it's gathering information. Like picture a train just kind of going back and forth and it's just downloading information. And this information is what it's going to use to basically frame your physical experience, your physical life experience. So your subconscious is very powerful. It's very complicated to understand everything that's going on in the subconscious mind, but every bit of information you can learn a little bit more about this mind and how it works will really make you so much more successful in life, because the subconscious is running the show, but we don't explore it enough and we don't study it enough. So hopefully this gives you a little bit more insight. So just as a point of reference, we've kind of started our mind map here. On the bottom, you'll see the human, and on one side, we've got our conscious mind. On the other side, we've got our unconscious mind. And then it is above us. We're looking at the subconscious. the one that gathers the information and then uses it in an autonomous manner in our life. We're also going to take a look at each one of our mental faculties and what they really represent. So first, we're going to start out with perception and reasoning and why we call this the observer when these two are combined. Perception, the observer's way of interpreting external stimuli. The observer's way of determining the present situation. This is how the conscious mind is fed information and knowledge from our five senses. Our mind is gathering up this information and then communicating it out to develop a thought in the mind. So perception creates some of your thoughts, not all of them, but the majority of them are created through the process of perception. The way that we perceive the world is something that we adapted from others. It's not usually us making these decisions. It's the influences of the environment that we were raised in that makes these decisions for us. So we molded a perception based on people that we saw and we looked at the way they perceived the world, and we gathered up our perception just from observation of them. So your parents influenced it, your community, your culture. These are all things that impact, influence, and build your perception of life. Whether or not these things are really true is something that you really have to question. Next, we have reasoning. Reasoning is the action of thinking about something in a logical, sensible way. Now we've got inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning. I'm not going to get into that. I do encourage you to study it a little bit further so that you can understand what the difference between inductive reasoning and deductive reasoning is. Again, this is just an overview. The act of thinking in a way that makes sense to you. After you have gathered a thought through perception, this faculty analyzes the thought, and you will either accept the thought or reject the thought using reasoning. Your reasoning is based on your observations in life and the lives of others. So we think about reasoning, but we really don't think about how it plays a role in everything that we do. Sometimes we'll autonomously say no to something without even applying reasoning to say, is this really something I don't want to do? Or is this something that really won't benefit me? So to understand why you make the decisions that you do, you kind of have to explore your reasoning, your methods of thinking, and what makes you draw those conclusions. And be aware of judgment, because a lot of times our reasoning is based out of judgment, and it's judgment that are on a false premise, and it's not really true, and it could be keeping you from living life to your fullest potential. So just be aware of your reasoning. We call perception and reasoning the observer. And the reason for that is because you can observe your perception, but it also was built on your observation of your physical reality. So as the observer, you're using perception to analyze and assess the world you live in based on how you were wired to believe and think. You are also using your reasoning faculty to accept or reject the idea based on how you were programmed to respond. Most of the programs, the mental programs, like our perception and our reasoning, we did not wire it ourselves. And sometimes we really have to look at it if we want to make a change happen in our life. So we revisit the map and we see where perception and reasoning really leads to the observer, and how to watch and monitor these areas when we're looking to change anything that we're not happy with in our life. And by being the observer, you're also observing the way you talk about others, the way that you talk about yourself, what your personal narrative sounds like. You're really being the observer in that scenario, in every scenario, in any scenario that's causing you distress or making you feel stressed out. This is where you want to come to and just examine your perception and your reasoning. And then next, we're going to look at memory and imagination. I refer to this as the experience. And memory is a faculty that stores and remembers information from the past. This information is stored in the subconscious mind. This is formed through repetition and develops our habitual behaviors. Traumatic and major events also impact those behaviors. Consider that your perception and reasoning originates from your memory. To effectively move forward, you must refrain from the past to a narrative of empowerment and build the best possible vision for your future using the strength of the challenges from your past that you've overcame instead of memory being used to drive fear and use it to empower faith, strength, endurance, and resilience. You see, memories can work two ways for us. They can instill fear into us and keep us from moving forward. Or we could use them as a point of reference of maybe what not to do as we go forward. And the faster we can build our minds to that level of recovery in which we're not living in memories that are traumatic from the past, and we're really building a bridge in which we're saying, okay, yes, that happened. And maybe I made a mistake, or maybe the other person made a mistake, but it's not something that I need to be carrying with me, because if I want to move ahead, then it's best to acknowledge that it happened, but don't put a whole lot of emotional attachment to it. It's very difficult to break the emotional attachment because emotional attachment is what creates the experience in the memory. I'll go into that a little bit further, but we're going to move along for now. Imagination is the ability of the mind to be creative and form new ideas and images of something that has not yet manifested in the physical world, a desire, a dream, a vision. This is the life that you want to live. This is your future life. And imagination should be an active engagement in which you're really creating all things amazing for yourself. And you're really being aware to not imagine the things you don't want to experience. Imagination is the greatest gift towards building a beautiful future. Imagination should not be used to envision negative experiences and reimagine past memories that were traumatic. Proper use of imagination will guarantee a phenomenal future. Use focus and discipline to hold the vision of your life, of the life you expect to live. Choose all the best for yourself. Loving relationships, healthy body, and financial abundance. You should always be thinking good thoughts about yourself. And as you're thinking it, you want to get imagination involved and you want to get your emotions involved in your while using your imagination, because those emotions are very powerful to locking in the feeling and feeling it, like Neville Goddard says. You're really going to feel it. This is how you feel it. You feel it through imagination. And you really, one thing I really want to emphasize to you today is if 80% of your mind is stuck in memory and traumatic situations from the past, you're not moving forward. So imagine if 80% is stuck on imagination and just a vision for the future, then you keep moving forward. There's not a way to move backwards when the majority of your day is just immersed in imagination. And that is such a beautiful thing. I hope people activate this mental faculty more because it's amazing. And don't use it in a manner in which you're using it to imagine worst case scenarios, or you're using it to imagine things going wrong in your life. You must use imagination to build a beautiful, safe environment for yourself as you move forward. The experience. To understand the experience is the ability to realize that memories were created through the emotional bonding of the experience. So as we look at memory, it was your high emotions, your high energy in motion, that vibrational frequency or low vibrational frequency that was traumatic, that bonded it to your memory. If it's a good memory, then it's great. We love those. But if it's something that's traumatic, you have to work on somehow unpacking that trauma and redirecting the way you're going to look at the situation. You need to look at it through a different set of eyes. So acknowledging it is key, but then reframing it is necessary. For example, 3 weeks ago, I could ask you on a Tuesday, what did you have for breakfast? If your emotions were not very high, the likelihood is that you didn't bond this day to your memory. So we go through a lot of mundane tasks every day. And if you just get up in the morning, you make your coffee, you eat the same thing, you head out the door, you go to work, then it's a very uneventful scenario. However, if it was eventful, let's say on that particular day it was your birthday and your family took you out to breakfast and you were emotionally happy, you would remember that day very vividly if I asked you what you did on that day. Adversely, if you got into an argument with someone, or maybe you got into like a car accident or something traumatic happened to you, God forbid. This is something that would trap it in your memory, and you would also remember the day very vividly. And it would also be a day that would stay stuck in your mind for a long time. So, emotions, so really consider that emotions are governing the experiences of memory and imagination. When building a vision for the future, it's imperative for the experience to feel emotionally along with a clear vision for the future. This is a ton of fun. I just want you to know, like, as you're getting involved in imagination, really get yourself like really excited about it and really invested in it, because it's worth putting your emotions into that experience. It makes you a lot happier and it gets you very excited. And think of a young child as they're playing. They're just imagining, their little plane and they're flying, or they're just imagining that they're driving. And those moments are really you using imagination. And as adults, we get really jaded and we don't use imagination enough. I do encourage you to play with imagination and imagine the best possible scenarios for yourself. I deal with so many young people and they imagine their other half cheating on them. They imagine things going wrong. They imagine and these are all things that they're imagining. And the imagination's so powerful, and they're getting their emotions involved, but it's not to their benefit. So really use imagination to your benefit. Imagine the best possible scenario for yourself. So we've discussed memory and imagination, and we call that the experience. Next, we're going to move along to will and intuition, and I refer to that as the alignment. So will, the expression of an intention, a desire, or a request towards a future situation, a commitment to a goal. Your free will. You need willpower, discipline, and dedication to achieve success. The will to do so is the determining factor as to whether or not you will succeed in any situation. Your willpower will activate intuition and guide you, resulting in your shifting into a beautiful alignment. So, really consider will is your self discipline, will is your determination, will is your commitment. All of these things, this is a part of your mental faculties that you're already built with. You're already built with will, and it's an amazing faculty because you can use it at will. You can use it however you wish to use it to create that dedication and that discipline to better serve you in life. Intuition, the knowing of your own instinctive vibration. Synchronicities and insights, something that only you can understand and relate to. Your connection to your higher self. Intuition is the communication and interpretation of the observable universe as only seen through your eyes. So, really consider how intuition works. It's something that's a secret language that's only speaking to you, it's not speaking to anybody else, just you. We may call this coincidence when we are unaware of how this faculty works. Many may refer to this as God's guidance. It can show up as a dream, instinctive feeling, an inner knowing. Meditation enhances intuition, especially a practice of clearing thoughts out of your mind. The more effective we get at having a less busy mind, the more we can be guided through intuition. So if we're able to clear the busyness that's going on in our mind, intuition speaks a lot louder to us. A busy mind is constantly playing on negative thoughts, feelings, and emotions from the past, and not relaxing ourselves enough and not inviting intuition to be activated, not asking the right questions will block intuition as well. So sometimes we need to really ask ourselves, what do I need to learn? What do I need to do? How do I do this differently? What are my next steps? We need to really ask mentally enabling questions in order to activate intuition. The harmony of having the willpower and the dedication to doing something mixed with intuition, I call this the alignment. And intuition is a combination with the actions of your will, allows you to experience the alignment with your life purpose. So, life purpose is something that speaks directly to you, and the alignment is the clear path forward, designed specifically for you. When you take action using your will is an action. So when you're taking action and you're engaging that discipline on a regular basis, things fall into alignment and intuition guides you faster with your will. So both of these, they work hand in hand. They're kind of opposites a little bit because one is really, intuition's really kind of just a language speaking to you only, but it comes from dedication and action through your will faculty. So we've got a good overview of all of our mental faculties and how they impact our life. We understand that perception and reasoning, we're the observer. That's how we built our perception and our reasoning. And if we want to change it, we have to then observe the perception and the reasoning in order to change it. Then we know that memory and imagination creates the experience. The experience comes about as an emotional trigger to memory and imagination if we plan on using them. Please do separate out your memory from imagination and do not allow your imagination to be imagining bad situations that has happened to you in the past. Become aware of this. This is a cycle that we perpetuate, not realizing it. And then we have will and intuition. This is called the alignment when you have a life purpose and you feel like you're driven to your life purpose and you know what you're working towards and you start using your willpower and your dedication and your discipline to getting to that goal. You'll see intuition really kind of kick in, and it's there to help support you and nudge you along the way that you're in the right alignment. Now, this is how it all comes together here. So we see that we have our perception, we have our reasoning, all of our mental faculties, all six of them, are operating right in the middle there. But what you'll notice is above it is the intellect. And the intellect has the free will to choose. And below the mental faculties, you'll see our ego. This is our identity that craves, and I will explain this in a little bit. Looking overall at the mind, I really want you to pay attention. You'll see our conscious and unconscious mind in the bottom. You see us human, and then this is the subconscious mind above the line. You'll notice that the line only extends out over the conscious mind. That's because the subconscious is autonomously running most of the programs that we don't realize that are happening to us in our physical reality. So studying different aspects of the subconscious, and this is the map to really explore and study. It will give you more insight as to why things happen the way that they do and how to wire yourself so that you're controlling the emotional charges in your life because they are very powerful. They they are creation energy. And above all of it, we've got inspiration, and it is our responsibility to turn our inspiration into an aspiration or goal. So every time you get inspired to do something, you have a responsibility to convert it into a goal, and using your intellect, your free will to choose will allow you to do that more effectively. You get even more efficient at using your mind when you're using your intellect to manage the ego, as well as observing your mental faculties and observing the changes that you need to make and rewiring yourself for those changes. The ego's characteristics. The ego is the I am that we identify with. The labels we give to our the labels that were given to us by others and the labels that we give ourselves. It could be true or it could be false. Wants, cravings, and addictions, these are all part of the ego's characteristics. So people can get addicted to the idea of love. And I say the idea of love because there is a pure love that I think we don't actually have a word for. There is an unconditional, compassionate word that I can't even, it's such a magnificent love that it can't even be described in this manner. When we look at wants and cravings and addictions to love, it's our desire to achieve that love from another person. But there's a really abundant love, and it's a spiritual love that just pours into us and is present. If we can recognize it, it's beautiful. So the ego's wants and cravings also sex, money, food, drugs, alcohol. And success is in there as well as spirituality, because these are also things that I think every single one of us kind of craves and we want. And it's not all of these things are bad things or good things. We're the ones that put the label to it. It doesn't mean it's bad or good. It's just for us to be aware of. It's just awareness. The ego is a key part of our personality, and it's also the know-it-all part of you. So think of the ego as when you're born and you're developing as a young child, you're really developing your identity. It's the I am, it's the I want, it's the I know. And a lot of times we find that um, even especially as teenagers, we find the I know it all type of personality that we have. Or sometimes on the flip side of that, we can experience the I don't know as a point of insecurity. I don't know what to do. Somebody else usually handles that. So these are all characteristics of our ego. I am confident or I am insecure. I am strong or I am weak. I am lazy or I'm ambitious. These are egoic labels, and we have the power to change those labels. So if we are dealing with I am lazy and feeling like we're lazy on a regular basis, then the way to change that is to consistently actually write, I am ambitious, I am focused, I am strong. And as you start to write those affirmations and listen to the affirmations over and over again, you are then rewiring your ego into the characteristics that you want your identity to be represented as. So you're now choosing the ego. And this is a very different approach from what we're told about the ego, but the ego is our identity. And the approach is to change and control the ego. When we can control our ego, then we have the power. When the ego is controlling us, we are in a state of weakness. We're in a state um, of lacking empowerment. To control the ego is to be able to gain empowerment. A lot of people regard the ego as a power trip. It's a power trip when it's not managed, because then it's just running crazy and it's running the show without intellect. This is why our intellect has this ability to choose. You can pick and choose. You can observe what you naturally have as an identity that is beneficial to you, and then you can choose what you need to change by understanding this. The intellect chooses. The intellect has free will to choose. It will keep the know-it-all ego in check. It will choose the I am identity and labels for the ego. It will choose what the ego should get addicted to. I would advise healthy routines. Get addicted to meditating, get addicted to writing your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions. The intellect chooses the ego personality. This is your personal reality. So you can reshape your egoic structure. You can make it um, You can make it more beneficial to you by rewriting the narrative of your ego. To engage with your intellect effectively means to observe everything going on in your mental faculties, your ego, your conscious and unconscious mind through introspection. When you observe something that needs to be changed, you will then apply mental duality to create the change. This is where mental duality really kicks in, because it gives you an amazing opportunity to, instead of, if you're observing chaos or there's chaos going on, you can choose calm. And when you understand how to dualistically play the game, it becomes a lot easier, and you will be happy to sit with yourself and make those corrections, because your life will become easier as a result of it. You will feel a clearness just vibrating through your entire body as you start to address and clear out those egoic challenges that you might be encountering. And the faster you get the ability to do that, the more success you're going to achieve, because now you're managing the ego, and it's not the ego that's managing you or the outside world that's managing your inner experience. So finally, we really take a look at this one more time, and we really understand it. We understand how inspiration works, how to convert it over to aspiration, make it into a goal. Know that you have an intellect. The intellect is above all, so it really chooses. It chooses how to perceive the world. It chooses how to reason in the world. It chooses the memories to release and the memories to hold on to. It chooses imagination and the vision forward. It chooses the will and the dedication and the commitment, and it chooses to acknowledge intuition when it happens. The intellect is in charge of all of our mental faculties, and it is the higher observer. It is the highest observer because using your intellect means you're really observing these various areas of ourselves. Um, And then we are looking at how perception and reasoning created the observer. That is you observing the world that built your perception and reasoning, and you experiencing the world that created your memory or your imagination. And you in alignment is what will activate your intuition and keep you dedicated to keep moving forward through your willpower. And then our egoic identities, just to remind you, it is the I am, the I want, and the I know. So think about everything on a daily basis that you slap those labels onto. I am positive, I am negative, I am happy, I am sad, I am going through issues. These are all things you really want to be cautious about, those I ams, because they are your reality when you claim it. And the I wants, you also need to be aware of. Make sure you are wanting the things that are good for you in this life, not the things that will bring you discourse or distress or disease into the body. And the I know is the final part, is the beware of when you use I know, because sometimes we say, I know how he is, or I know how she is. Nobody really ever knows that. That is an untrue statement, but we allow ourselves to believe certain things. It could be positive or negative towards other people. And we may be judging in the situation, and we have to be careful about judging. And also, the I know is part of could be part of an egoic play, like I know it all, I've got all this education, I know this, I know that, and I'm better than you as a result of it. So beware, these are how the ego, these methods are, these characteristics are how the ego is fed. So we really want to make sure that we're minimizing the impact of the ego in our subconscious mind, and we're amplifying the use of the intellect and our free will to choose, and we're choosing the things that are going to be beneficial for us. Our subconscious mind is running 95% of our programs. So understanding your subconscious mind is your biggest asset. It is your greatest asset, to study your mind and understand how it works and why it works the way that it does. This requires introspection. It requires meditation is a great way to do it. It really does require time on your part and becoming more aware. I hope you found this information beneficial. Well, if you are curious about how this can apply directly into your life, please visit us at www.sublimeknowledge.com. This is Alia Yasmin Khan, and I just want to thank everybody that listened to this. I hope you found value in this. Please share it with someone that you think can benefit as well. Have a wonderful and magnificent day, and know that you have an abundance of power within your control, and you can utilize it. It's there for you to use.